talk about it. So, we've been talking about a lot of stuff, but I got to say, guys, I'm real disappointed with my generation. You guys didn't turn out for Super Tuesday. Now, I understand there were a lot of reasons.
I got a rebuttal to that, too.
People were effectively forced out. There were poll closures everywhere. People are working. And again, my generation, other part of it is we work a lot because we're in debt, and so we can't spend 5 hours in lines, and that affected. I understand there's a lot of things happening that kept people from voting. At the same time, we have to make our voices heard. There's no generation that votes for Sanders more than millennials. And we just didn't turn out. And again, I know there's a lot of reasons, but we have to sacrifice to make sure that these votes happen. Everyone's vote matters, because if everyone thinks that their vote doesn't matter, no one comes out, no one's vote matters. But if everyone thinks their vote matters, everyone comes out. Perception drives reality. We have to remind, and I know the demographics of our audience, and most of our audience is in the 45 to 60 range. And so, ironically, call your kids if they live in a state that's voting and remind them to vote. That might be really helpful. I mean, we really do need it. So let's talk about this breakdown. In Alabama, only 10% of voters were aged 17 to 29, compared to 14% in 2016. In North Carolina, it was only 14%, though we have talked about North Carolina having some shenanigans happening, which was down 2%.
Same thing in South Carolina, too.
Yeah. And again, all of these groups voting for Sanders overwhelmingly. In South Carolina, young voters made up the 11% of the electorate versus 15 in 2016. In Tennessee, it's 11 versus 15 in 2016. And in Virginia, it was 13 versus 16%. And again, as soon as this age group votes, Sanders just takes it away. So it's like I don't know really what to do with this. How do we get – because I talk to these people all the time. I'm in college. I talk to these people all the time. They're always talking, and rightfully so, about the need for Medicare for all, getting the boot off their neck with college tuition and debt. But at the same time, if you're not going to the polls, I'm not sure you can complain all that much. I mean, I know there's exceptions. I know there's reasons. But if you don't vote, again, what have I said about politics? You either design the menu or you're on it. Voting's a part of what you need to do. It's not the whole thing, not even close. But it's the way that even in that system where things are being tallied incorrectly in electronic voting, it can only hit a certain amount of people. Make the difference.
I mean, I can imagine an electronic voter fraud system that just, checks people's age and then doesn't count those votes.
Mm-hmm. But again,
I can imagine that system.
I can imagine it too.
I can't prove that that's a thing that's happening.
That's up to legally speaking. It's up to Sanders to call it out then. But it's easier to call that out and prove it if there's a wider margin than a narrower margin.